Hey guys, it's Marble Tyler here, and it's been a while. I apologize, E3's been happening, a lot of work stuff's been happening, my birthday happened, all kinds of stuff, so it's been a little bit crazy for me. So my upload schedule's been all over the place, but this time, for sure, back to daily uploads. I'm going to work on that special project, and you'll hear about that soon enough. But regardless, my dog is barking in the background, and we're going to talk about E3. We're going to talk about what Nintendo did better than the competition. The competition in this case referring to specifically Microsoft and Sony, because while Ubisoft and EA are great, they're not the same as console developers, because console developers need some sort of exclusive kick to their system. Meanwhile, Ubisoft and EA and Devolver Digital and Square Enix and everybody else, they're just trying to show off games. They're just trying to pitch stuff to you that you should buy. But Microsoft and Sony have a little bit of a secondary objective, which is buying these games, but also buying their console. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the different showings, and what did Sony not do as good as Nintendo, and what did Microsoft not do as well? I think it all comes down to trailers and the quantity of games versus the quality of the games shown. And what I mean by that is more of the conference itself. Not so much like, yeah, the games will probably be great, but more of how they're presented and how the show's done properly to get you pumped up as a consumer, as a video game player, as a purchaser of these video games. What's going to get them pumped up the most to buy these video games and to buy their consoles and to look forward to stuff on Nintendo's platform or Microsoft's platform. Now, Microsoft took our approach. They showed 50 different games, and they had like 14 or 18 world premieres and like whatever the number whatever the other number was, the 14 or 18 exclusives or whatever. That's a lot of games. And because of that, and because their show's only so long, there's a lot of like trailer, world premiere, as they'd say, console exclusive or whatever they'd say. It was pretty. I always love that voice. That's just me. But so Microsoft just showed off trailer after trailer after trailer, and there's maybe 2 games in total that they showed off a set of gameplay for. Gears 5 is the only one that comes to mind that's like, oh, hey, they actually showed off a little bit of gameplay, kind of. It's kind of like story-driven gameplay stuff, but they actually showed off a good amount of Gears 5, but everything else, starting off the conference with Halo Infinite, looking at Just Cause, looking at Devil May Cry, there really wasn't a ton in depth about anything. It was just trailer. And to be fair, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed their conference better than Sony's, because Sony, on the other hand, took the approach of, we are going to show you a game, and we're going to spend 5 minutes, 10 minutes talking about it. So they started with Last of Us 2, and with Sony's conference as well, it was also some sort of, they were trying something where they moved people, and it really slowed the show down and made it kind of not that fun to watch. They had this like press board that they'd cut to, and it was kind of like awkward. And they showed a ton of Last of Us 2, and it looked great, by all means. Last of Us 2 looks absolutely phenomenal. But they just showed off tons of it, which was fine. But then we moved on to the next game, and I think we got a trailer, 1 or 2 trailers, and then really in-depth, and then really in-depth, and then there wasn't much. I think they showed off like a total of 10 games. And I just remember the end of the conference, everybody's looking around like, was that it? And then they cut to that discussion board, and it was like, that was it. And so I think that's probably not the ideal approach. Not that Microsoft's was the ideal, but Microsoft, on the other hand, had tons of games. They had trailers. They had a lot of cool stuff. Something that Sony didn't. And so after that, Nintendo is where I feel like the fine line is. That's why I feel Nintendo did it better than the rest. They didn't have a live show. They didn't have a live conference. They had a Nintendo Direct, which is a pre-recorded video thing that they put out, that they live streamed, which was great. But essentially, they would announce games with trailers. For example, Super Mario Party got a 2-minute trailer, and it looks amazing. It's the next Mario Party. I mean, I would have given it more time, but that's awesome. But at the same point in time, they knew what the strongest games of the year were going to be. And they didn't show off a ton of Super Mario, the Tennis Aces game, because that's right around the corner. And if you're going to buy that, it's a little too late to sway you. But they showed off tons of Smash Bros. With some in-depth gameplay, because that's the big game. But then they also had a lot of other games that were just trailers, and they drew attention to the big things and shown those in depth, but they also made sure there was room for all the small things just as well, if you know what I mean. So yeah, it's kind of the fine line, you got to show off gameplay, you got to let the people know what the game's like, what it's going to look like, what it's going to play like, what kind of game it is in the first place. Does it run well? Does it look good? How are the graphics? All those details are really, really important to a lot of consumers. But at the same point in time, we want to know there's a lot of games coming. And I think that's where Sony really dropped the ball, was that we just don't know, what's going to happen, what's the games like, etc. But Microsoft kind of dropped the ball on the gameplay side. While Gears 5 looks amazing, by all means, I think Gears is going to be great. But Halo Infinite, and that's probably because it's just too early to tell, but what does the game even look like? That was an engine demonstration, which is cool. But is this classic gameplay? Is this modern gameplay? For Devil May Cry, we had a pretty cool trailer. And given Devil May Cry isn't Microsoft's own game, but they announced all these other studios, and they showed off a little bit of gameplay and dynamic stuff. Forza Horizon's an example that comes to mind. They showed off the seasons, which was great. The idea that was being live play tested seems like bogus to me because, yeah, but Forza Horizons look great. But maybe they just didn't go far enough with some of the other games, if you know what I mean. But then again, Microsoft also had a different agenda. They basically wanted to announce, hey, these are all games in the future we're going to have. So, at the same point in time, I understand why Microsoft's show didn't hold up. But regardless, I thought this E3 was great, but Nintendo definitely walked the line the best. They had plenty of gameplay, but they also had plenty of trailers, and they gave you a ton of reasons to buy a Switch. But what did you guys think? Did you enjoy Nintendo? Did you enjoy Microsoft, Sony? Let me know in the comments, and I really hope to see you guys in the game.